hug in, so I'm sorry I'm late. Today, Omari's not feeling well, so we're just going to do a chat. We're just going to chat with each other, if that sounds okay. We have a lot of questions from what I understand, because I answer one question. I swear. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to answer this. And then anyway, I don't know. I guess that's how it goes. They say, give a woman something small and, she'll make it big. Like, give her a sperm, she'll make a baby. And if you go to Tony Robbins, he'll like be like, men, show us where you hold your money. And they'll pull out a wallet and women will pull out this huge purse. And he's like, that's everything you need to know. And so I do that with questions, apparently. I apologize. If anybody wants quick answers, maybe we'll have AI to give you the quick answer, and I'll give you this. So we're just going to start with some questions. If you have any more, feel free to send them in. There's somebody there to grab them for you, and we'll see. We're going to see. It's a good day. We think it's a good day overall. We'll find out shortly.
First question. I listened to your talk on the consort, and I'm so grateful. As I shared before, I spent a year celibate to repattern my relationship to eroticism. I've recently opened again and now have a consort. I've been practicing much of what you teach, and it's been deeply transformative. I'm noticing a pattern where I climax very quickly, especially when I'm already in an expanded, aroused state. After the first climax, I can drop back into presence and continue flowing with him. But after multiple climaxes, there's a point where it starts to feel like too much, overstimulated, uncomfortable. I often prompt him to climax to bring the experience to a close. My first question, how can I stay in this state longer without collapsing, overriding, or disconnecting, especially when it feels like my system hit the limit? I've noticed this beyond sex too. I reach expanded states in life and then contract. It feels like a core edge around nervous system capacity, receptivity, or pleasure threshold, and I want to expand it. Would you like the second question?
No, God. We're lucky if I don't have to have 2 episodes to answer this one. So I don't know who you people are with these great questions. I really, every single day, I'm not pulling your leg when I say I genuinely ask myself if I should be talking about these things, if anybody actually understands what I'm saying, if I'm giving too much information, and then I get these questions, and just so you know, it's very affirming for me that it's being received in the way that I'm sending it. It's not being diminished in some way and grabbed and used for pleasure, as opposed to liberation. I'm only interested in liberation. And so this question, the amount of care, the amount of, because these are places that they're corners, they're cracks. You have to go in there to see at the level of refinement that question came from. And so then I know, I know it's something that can't be faked unless AI wrote your question for you. It communicates the level of consciousness that you're in, that is, it says, unconscious from here on in, no consciousness to follow, and you manage to stay conscious. So you're on the other side. So let's look at your question. The middle part where you talk about climax. So I have several answers for this, and you're right. It's a pleasure threshold. It's what we call a having level. You build capacity for expanded arousal, and it's a lot like working your hips out. If you've ever done yoga, you can't force them open no matter what you do. They essentially go into climax and snap back. So you don't have that option. You only can gently, progressively open, and then you close a little bit, and then you open, and then you close a little bit, and you open and close a bit, and then eventually they're supposed to, from what I understand, just stay kind of flopped open. And you're going to be, there's 2 ways to play with the climax. One of the really important things to do just up front is what I talked about yesterday, and that's to get really clear on what climax means to you. It's really significant because often that's what's triggered the conception of climax. And that conception of climax then activates the biology. You're using the voluntary musculature to activate the involuntary musculature, which is actually the opposite of how it's supposed to be. So, and I'm not saying this is you, I'm just going to give you the myriad possibilities so that in case somebody else has this issue. The other thing I just want to say really quickly is that if you aren't allowing the nourishment to go deep, then you have smaller capacity. That smaller capacity will climax every time because it won't be able to penetrate the harder layers, the arid soil. And so the first thing I would always suggest here is slow, go slow to go deep is what we're going to say. And so that's just on the aside. So the conceptual, often, I mean, surprisingly often, people are conceptually triggered around climax, and it's that it means something. And what does it mean? Climax means I'm giving over something to you. So often it's how women who are romance addicted communicate that feeling. We communicate something special. Climax is considered something special. We're offering somebody. So I'm giving something over to you, or I'm in a state of abandon and I'm, losing it, all kinds of things like that. Or, more often than not for women, but this is also more if she's making him climax. And all climax, I'm going to say it again, is generated from the clitoris. So you can work that out for yourself, including in his body. But so if she's bringing him to climax, or if she's bringing herself to climax, often it's a claiming. It's a territorial, biological claiming under the radar of another person and grabbing their psyche. So you want to look at if that's what you want to do, and if that's operational. That may not be operational from the nature of your question. You aren't somebody who I'd be like, we got to be really careful with this one. But everyone I know and have ever met should keep an eye on that potential. So then what do you do? So you look at what is your capacity and what is tense, because I don't know what it would be, premature climax. I don't know. Was that what you'd call it in a woman? So what that is a response, and a habituated response within an experience of contraction, of a habituated contraction. So you have a habituated response of when arousal goes up, you go into contraction. And what we want to do is reverse that when arousal goes up, you go into relaxation. And but I also want to say, it sounds like you're finding arousal. I'd much rather somebody be on the climax plateau than not actually hitting arousal. If you get me, if I can get somebody to that climax plateau and we can play there, then we can begin to spread it. But a lot of women won't even let themselves go out of control to hit that place of being in that on the edge, ready to go over all day long. That's where we want you. Okay. So you tip sometimes, and it's like a balancing pose. You go and you're determined to do the pose, and you tip one way or another. And so you're learning how to do that. So what do you do? So you hit that place and you realize, you begin to just notice. You aren't being right or wrong, good or bad. You're just noticing, oh, wow. Oh, I feel that arousal. Oh, I contract there. Okay. And you're going to be adding as much, but no yogic breaths here. This is not like tumo. This is nothing like that. It's just a gentle, regular release, like you're on psychedelics. Okay. Like, and you're just going to feel it spread out. And then you're going to feel the arousal go up again. and you're going to feel it spread out. What you're doing, so climax is also a localized experience. So it's a habituated, localized experience, usually in the front of the clitoris or the back of the clitoris. And what you're learning to do is spread it through each of the bodies and through the whole of this body. And you do that through release or exhale inside of it. So you're taking, it's actually great. You take that climax impulse, and you just begin to move it out. And if you're really, really attuned, and I wouldn't suggest this for the average person, but you sound like you are, see if you can notice the membrane that you're climax, because climax is membrane locked, right? As long as you have membranes, then you're going to have involuntary climax. So see if you can notice the membrane, just notice where it's located. And then as you exhale out, allow it to move a little further out. So that's the first thing you're going to do. Then though, if you do climax, then what you're going to have to do, or what I would suggest, I can't believe I'm having this conversation. Every day I can't believe I'm having this conversation. Just a little bit of heaven. So if you feel it start to roll, then what I do is I just do my tumo. And so that moment where it starts to roll out, you instead inhale up and pull it up. And then it's fantastic because you clear stuff more quickly than you could in almost any other practice. Sorry, including, I mean, for me, this is just for me, including tumo. Because tumo, you're working so hard, but this, you're just climaxing, and then you just pull it up. And you can pull it, there's a central channel, you just pull it up that central channel, and at the end of it, it should be like a brain orgasm, because you've pulled all that energy up and it sparks, and then it should break open, and it should break open into a clear light. It's a fantastic experience. And the more important fact is that you aren't expelling any energy. You are generating energy. And so you come out of it just in this, it's almost like a concentrated, clear light. So I don't know about you, but if I regular climax, I feel sort of like, I don't know, like an ashtray. Like I feel depleted, or I don't know, sort of dingy or something. I don't know, my consciousness isn't as bright. I like to have a very clear consciousness, but you have to have the climax experience within your sexual activity certain times, because it's like running the disposal in your sink. It kind of grinds everything up and moves it out. And so you want to be able to climax well, but you want to be able to climax deliberately. And then the other piece is, most importantly, is that you do not reinforce climax with unconsciousness. The minute the bell goes off, you better have, not you better, but this is how I feel about it, sorry. But if you've watched me before and you're watching me again, then you know I'm like this. So it's Sicilian, I cannot help it, I've tried. Oh my gosh. But so it is strongly suggested that you have a visualization available to you at that moment. I have my guru, that the minute it goes, and then what I do in that moment is I see how stable and vivid I can keep the image without any breaks in it or any deviations, because you're in climax. So climax is the time when you get to cheat, right? You're like, you get to fall in love, you get to have all of those illicit dreams, you get to have everything in those moments. I don't do that. I just see, right? And I have a living picture. That's the other thing you're trying to do, is you're trying to not just a picture, but you're having it come alive with you. So you're interacting with that image in that moment, and you're using all of this energy to do it, because then what you're reinforcing is that this most powerful biological urge on the planet is being used for purposes of consciousness, not for unconsciousness. See, climax also happens because it's like the promise of a little vacay, right? I'm outie for a minute, see you later, and I'll be in love on the other side. And that's not what we're using it for. We want to use it for that, perfect stabilization of consciousness when you are not connected to the platform of identity. And this is the ultimate moment of that. So that's where you want to go. And I'm going to suggest this one last thing. And that is, if you do not control your climax, then everyone can control you through your climax. So it's just a really important thing to have some fluency and facility with, is to be able to just have that really, really stable capacity to visualize inside of that space, and then to really use that to open that channel. Because when you're, from climax, all of the filters fall away, and you have pure seeing. And so in that pure seeing, you can see your visualizations almost like no other time. And then when you do, and they're stable, there is the most, I think, just profound intimacy. It's like, it's just like the whole universe has this face, and it's right there with you, and you're getting to interact with it. And then you're also getting to see your profound life-giving abilities, because you're giving life to this visualization. So those are my climax suggestions today.
Second question is about him. I notice his arousal isn't as potent now that we're having sex. Before, when it wasn't open to intercourse, there was more charge. I've named that I'm not with him just for sex, and that I'm in a deep medicinal journey with this dynamic. He meets me in much of it, but I don't want to prompt his climax just because I'm done. I want our connection to liberate his fullest expression too. So how can I better hold the container, not to manage or control his experience, but to invite a field where his own freedom and power are activated?
So when the questions are this long, will you print them for me so I can, so will you read just the first part again with the microphone?
My second question is about him. I notice his arousal isn't as potent now that we're having sex. Before, when I wasn't open to intercourse, there was more charge. I've named that I'm not with him just for sex, and that I'm in a deep medicine journey within this dynamic.
Okay, great. So I'm going to just start here. And I'm going to say, you are describing one of the ultimate examples of climax addiction, in a cultural climax addiction. And that is when you have a culture that's climactically addicted, then what you'll see are people who are able to respond to wanting more than having. Craving becomes the snake eating its tail of arousal. It gets off on craving itself. That's what's called a hungry ghost. And so there are people who are just so deeply grooved and programmed. And I would say most people, by the way, this isn't just your guy, that the get off is in the hunt. And they get off on the hunt. And from that, that's where the greatest state of arousal is for most people. That's why novelty is important. You have to kind of keep conquering. And so when I talk about making it to the other side of the climax membrane, so the other side is having. There's wanting, and then the other side is having. And most people are just land animals, and they have no idea how to be in the endless ocean, of celestial mansions of having. And so most people have like just no idea of the entire realms and worlds that are available on this other side, because they stay on this side where they like yearning, they like craving, they like the almost, the so close, and all of that. And so what I hear, this is what I hear, and this is, I don't know your guy, I don't know any of this. This is just my diagnostic from what I hear, is you have to get them on the other side of the membrane. And then that's hard, because during that time, it's almost like they detox, and they detox where like virile, I'm going to eat you alive kind of guys all of a sudden are like, I don't know if I could take anymore. And then like all of a sudden they're kind of, this is where the guy who was so hot and virile at the beginning is now sneaking away to watch porn, because porn just pumps that craving out for them. And that's actually what has grabbed their sex life. And so or where they check out other chicks or whatever it is, that's where they don't know how to have the adult fulfillment of having, where it's a craft, it's an art. You're going into all of these different realms to notice the nuance. They only sort of know the brute or coarse level desire of wanting. So you have to go through that membrane. You're just going to have to not take it personally when the arousal goes down there, and the arousal likely will go up outside. It'll go down with you. You're going to be like the boring housewife sex for a while, and you just have to coax him over that membrane, because it sounds like, I assume, I don't know, that there's a whole world on the other side. And this is really the issue, is that people don't realize you haven't even made it in the house. At climax, you haven't even made it in the house of what's available. You haven't even made it to the block, really. And then you're like, yeah, did it. And so really having people begin to understand, no, there's a whole other world there, and beginning to explore that. And so you're going to have to usher him over that place. Now, my suggestion, this is really, I try to have as many sessions as possible, unless it just sounds fun, end without climax. Or you have it have climax in the middle, and then you keep going in some other way, so that you aren't having climax as dessert, that you're really having to have it be integrated into the whole of the practice, and that it's not like, I'm bored now, do it, daddy, and make him come, and then it's over. There's no reason. And then the other thing is, men really are brought up to believe that sex ends when climax happens. And so all kinds of stuff gets built up around climax, doesn't it? Like, oh, I did it too early. I did it before she came. I did it before. And I don't know about most women on this one, but I do know that most women don't climax very often. And so, and I do know that a lot of women pretend that they do. And they pretend that they do to get it over with, so that he actually does, and then it ends. And what a horrible thing to build into your sex life. I say, just say, I used to, I've had some sex in my day, and I remember these guys would just be like, I just want to make you come, baby, baby, I want to make you come. And I just say, like, I don't want to. And I can tell you, it would be shocking to them. And I would say, I just like living in this state, and begin to show them what it was like, how you could actually have arousal get bigger and bigger and bigger. And when you get, when the truth is, when you get arousal big enough, things get trippy, right? Things get trippy, they get sort of psychedelic, a whole other experience happens. That's why most people don't go there, because it takes you off the platform of identity. But if you know, so what I like to do is keep the arousal high and then begin to show what's possible and like keep him there. And you know, and I love to taunt him like, climax is coming anytime, baby. Just come to this next place with me, and this next one, and this next one, and this next one, and this next, and the gates open, you know, and then when the gate opens, nobody cares about climax. Nobody cares. You're just like, oh my God, why would I even bother with that? Okay, if it comes, it comes. If it goes, it goes. And so that's what you're working with. When I first, you know, take on a consort or something of that nature, I give them climax till the cows come home. You know, it's like, because they have to know that it's available, I can do it, we can do it, it can go like this. And then, and you have to kind of like drain them a little bit. You get them a little exhausted so that you can then say, you can introduce something new, a new way, you know, and a lot of people don't make it there. But the ones who do discover something profound enough to come and be on a Zoom and talk about it to total strangers. How's that?
Next is from Sam. Does Om help one to awake in dreams, i.e. lucid dreams? Just wondering. I recently viewed a fascinating video regarding the gateway to God mode in lucid dreams on Gaia TV. A God mode, what is that? It claims that following a successful lucid dream, one would be able to easily create the reality that would be applied in the actual world during the day.
In the actual
world.
During the day. Yeah, 100%. People who like sex tend to like death and dreams as well. And by death, I mean like Tibetan versions of death. You know, entry into the bardos, all of the various non-material reality forms. And lucid dreams is one for me, and out of body experiences. And orgasm powers all of those. You know, orgasm is a power that comes below to take you into the energetic realms, and that's, you know, death and lucid dreaming and out of body experiences are energetic realm experiences. So I'm I haven't been for about a year, but I was a freak. I mean, just obsessed with lucid dreaming, and especially obsessed with what's called night school. Night school is located, so here's lucid dreaming, which is rad, but night school is located inside of that, and that's where you really, it's almost like you sit with the Buddhas and they change your constitution and your psychological, your energetic, your emotional constitution, and train you how to navigate those realms. The fuel that runs on is orgasm, and by orgasm I don't mean climax, I mean sexual energies. So the answer is absolutely yes.
Michelle Rose, hi Nicole and friends. I'm curious, without climax, when doing solo stroking or having sex, when is the best time to end the practice? Use a timer or go through a certain amount of peaks and then stop right at the edge of a potent peak?
I love this question. Great question. So my first answer is going to sound dumb, but it's the most honest answer I can give, and that's you listen. Because there'll be this moment when you just hear, okay, that's just right. And I heard this about in Japan, there's this instruction to stop eating when you're 80% full, save 20%. And in Om, what we say is when the next stroke will be less sensational than the last, right there, you peak. Excuse me, that's always a good rule. And so what you're trying to do is figure out the heightened place where you have, you still have perfect clarity, but high expanding sensation. And I don't mean high stoned. When I say high, I mean lucidity. You have an extraordinary lucidity inside of it. And anybody who hits that plateau knows that place of stable lucidity, just clarity, because that is what you're going to leave your house with in order to begin titrating this into your everyday life. So there'll be that moment. If not, then yeah, set a timer. You know, I have several practices that I set a timer for as well, and that always works until you trust yourself. But remember that you're going to keep aiming for listening to the point, and it'll just say now. It'll be totally clear. There'll be no doubt.
Michelle Jarrett, as I try to maintain arousal throughout the day and pull it back into my body, it feels like it's disappearing into or getting inverted into my womb space.
Wait, sorry about that. It feels like it's getting.
It feels like it's disappearing into or getting inverted into my womb space. Does that make sense? And can you share what might be happening here?
Yeah. Excuse me. I can guess. I don't know. So my first guess is that that you draw in, that you're accustomed to drawing in, that you have a certain magnetism, and that the magnetism is a default. So first of all, I think magnetism is a wonderful and excellent thing. I want to make that clear. And some people are born with a default magnetism. You know, somebody who just kind of has that magnetism about them. They may not even want it. They have it. Okay, so a lot of people don't learn how to operate their magnetism, and then they just end up pulling things in that, you know, indiscriminately, which I don't, you know, it does what it does. I'm not opposed to it. It's just kind of, you end up with all of these, you know, people hanging out in your womb, and you may not want them there. So, what I would suggest is that you remain at a very, very high level of heat, because what you're going to have to do is reverse a pulling in, very, very feminine quality, a pulling in into melting that organically radiates out. That's what you're going to try to do. And it's, you know, it takes a lot of heat to actually reverse that particular tendency. You know, my guess is people are attracted to you in some way beyond what you can stop. And so we call that learning to operate the rheostat. Well, the rheostat doesn't work until it has the capacity to radiate out. Radiating out is actually where you want to go, because it is taking this primary and fundamental, we'll call it womb quality, these sexual energies, and instead of pulling in a way where you're going to have to take care of everyone that you've pulled in, or attend to everyone you've pulled in, because you're making them a promise when you're pulling them, if that makes sense. They're coming sort of against their will, or the world is coming against its will. So then you're saying, okay, what they hear when you do that is, I'll take care of you. You don't want that. What you want is, here, take some milk. I will radiate it out to you and keep going without residue. You do that simply by having enough heat. And climax here does work. It does work to expel that drawing in quality and release it into a pulling out. If you have more after that, I'm always happy to answer.
Liz asks, I feel like I'm shifting into a whole new level of reception. It feels slower and more quiet. It feels scary to slow down this much in a fast-paced world. Would love to hear your thoughts.
Hallelujah. Amen is my first thought. I don't know what's happening in your life, but whatever it is the right thing. And then what I would say is my favorite Ram Dass, it's not that you want too much, it's that you don't want enough. So if it's still feeling slow, it's not slow enough. And what I mean by that is what I hear is you're starting to become karma itself. As you move toward becoming karma, and everything is karma. So you're dissolving a sense of self into the karma itself. Well, as you're doing that, you're needing to release more membranes, and then what will happen is enough membranes will be dissolved that you'll be one with the karma. And as you're one with the karma, what will then happen is life will move in its ways, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes seemingly still, and it'll all be the same stillness. And there's an experience when we do what's called a demonstration of a woman in orgasm. You do that, and it looks like you're stroking away. It looks like it's wild. But when you're actually in the demo and you're stroking, there's nothing. There's just these tiny little waves of light are moving through all of these vibrations. Because in a demo, you're just stroking to be in pitch perfect response with the various fluctuations of energies that are happening. And then there's just that kind of, it's almost like a moonlight white with sort of like a lighter yellow in it for the movements. And so that's ultimately, as far as I can tell, if you're not sitting in a cave, but you want to be able to maintain a sense of the eternal, that's the best place to land.
We've talked about, or you've mapped out the different positions on the clitoris, and now we're talking about the 10 levels of the body, and I'm wondering how they correlate with one another, or if each level has those same 12 spots.
So each body, and so it's complex in a certain way. It's very simple in another way, in that you just stroke what feels good. So it is self-organizing, but each body, we'll say each body has its own clitoris. And so it may be that a clitoris in one of the bodies just is not turned on at all. And that's how you can have a woman who is extraordinarily like sexy or sexual, but not erotic. Or a woman who is very seductive, but not able to maintain arousal. These various things are happening depending on one of the bodies being fully turned on. Or, say the 3 o'clock spot in the erotic body isn't turned on. Well, that's the identity spot. So that would mean she wouldn't think of herself as erotic. So you have to, her identity wouldn't go there. It wouldn't be admitting all of these erotic activities that are happening. So you'd have to turn that spot on for her to feel herself that way.
Nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lauren on Instagram asks, when you're on the other side in having, how much does novelty matter?
Not at all. Not at all. In fact, you would do anything in your power to not introduce any new novelty, because now you're in the karmas themselves, and it is nothing but novel. This moment right now, if it were fully sensed, is so profoundly, overwhelmingly, beautifully, unbearably, majestically stimulating that it's too much almost. So the introduction of anything is entirely unnecessary. Just I mean, just the scent. I tell this story sometimes because it's so. But you know, when I was in my heavy duty demo training, this guy who was my stroker at the time was sitting across the table, and he lifted his arm, and just his BL came over to me and sent me into full, you know, in full convulsive orgasm. And because you begin to live at that level of sensitivity. So even the scent of, I have unscented detergent, and I can still smell it on my sheets. Your senses are so heightened that it doesn't matter at all. And though novelty is fun there, because that's the other thing, because you're kind of liquidy, you know, so it's kind of fun, like your body begins to just move so differently, and your experiences are so, that feels so good. Very much, you know, like yoga, the way when you get into that place you haven't been able to get into, all of that feels great.
That leads well into Abram's question. How do you know the difference between instinctual level conditioning and Clatia in a woman and the bond of karma? So instinctual level conditioning / Clatia in a woman and the bond of karma.
Okay, so I am going to probably give you a different. My beliefs overlap a great deal with Tibetan Buddhism, and every now and then, you know, I venture into just pure Eros. So my answer may not be, you know, aligned with some people's. It may be, I don't know. Because I believe in the end, you know, as you follow all the way into Dharmakaya, where there's not even karma, there's nothing. It's just the ocean itself. You're just that. I think I showed an image once of like, you know, that it's like this. It's like this, and these are all separate little animal people. And then, but then you realize they're all from the same hand. And so, so there's a place that you can. You only know that you've been there when you emerge from there. And does that make sense? Okay. So So right in front of that is everything is karma, the experience of everything being karma, and that potentially consciousness could be located in all locations at once. I've told this story once after a particular journey, you know, of just like, whew, my consciousness was a farmer. My consciousness was a goat. It was a plant over there. It was me here. It was, you know, it was everything all at once. And so, so that's what's right in front of that location. This I have, by the way, just checked with my Drupon. He was like, yes, I think that's how it works too. So then I say this because, so it would go instinctual karma bond, just plain all of its karma. So even there is no distinction between, you know, bad instinctual Clatia, between, you know, karma bonding. There's a place where it's just all the same. That's called one taste. And so, yeah, I would suggest, if you're asking this question, and remember, I'm giving anonymous suggestions on a Zoom. So you see for yourself if it works. I'm just trying to hear where you're at and then give appropriate suggestions, because it sounds like you have a somewhat advanced thinking. If you have a somewhat advanced thinking, then I would say play with it. See, a good litmus test is always, do I breathe more or less? Less is the great squeeze that is Clatia, and more is wisdom and vast open space. And when I say this, I don't mean any kind of labored breath. You know, I come from the Bay Area, and we were just always breathing. It was like, so dramatic. I don't believe in that. Don't do that. But if you just notice naturally, well, my exhale doesn't catch. My inhale doesn't accidentally hold. I don't feel like I'm tense or holding anything. Then it's probably closer to something that's very genuine. Otherwise, the Clatia gotcha. And it's just going to squeeze away. How's that?
Hung says, staying in arousal is a lot of work. Am I missing something? I want a break. How about honoring natural rhythms of ebb and flow?
Well, I mean, natural rhythms of ebb and flow end in death. So you're honor them all you want. But if you actually want to penetrate the various membranes, then you're going to have to work up enough velocity in your arousal that it has enough power, strength, and force to penetrate, or you're just going to live on this side of feigned comfort and all of the products of feigned comfort. And I love you, girl. But I am going to say that we sell as a samsara. Samsara sells all of these ways for comfort. They really sell like, this is how you can be comfortable in hell. I say just get out of hell. And it seems to me like it's worth it. There's a what's it called, Emmett? The progression thing. There's this phenomenon that at a certain point, if you're a really good practitioner, at a certain point, all of a sudden you have to introduce something new. And this is where a lot of practitioners, intermediate slump is what it's called. This is where a lot of practitioners fall off. And this is where you have to introduce sort of engagement and agency and a push. And so, we're just taught like, oh, don't push yourself, man. Okay, well, if you're in total strain, don't push yourself, man, is good. But then if you actually want to get somewhere, that's where you have to turn on the engine. Well, turning on the engine, it's hard at first, but then that engine is the thing that will carries you. And then suddenly, because you made even if it were one lifetime, you made the investment of one lifetime of really deliberately engaging, then you get to fly in this vehicle for the rest of your life, and you get to have the wind at your back. It's worth it. I mean, that's my math, but everyone has their own math.
Vivian asks, what do you think about consort relating when you're more interested in women relationships?
Do it. I mean, I have to tell you, so I have to give my cred. So you just have to get, this is not a political thing for me. It's not a political thing at all. It's an energetic and what energies work and why and how. And that is, so my cred is I was with women exclusively with women for, I don't know, a decade plus. So this is not like, oh no, man, she hates lesbians. It's like, some of my best ex-lovers are lesbians. So that's not what I'm saying. But energetically, there's a reason why they call it the lesbian bed death. And that is because two negative poles tend to lock. And Eros is something that demands distance and dynamism. So the magnet, if it's locked, won't permit that. That's why you insert, this positive pole that's kind of repulsive, attractive, that these two energies can go through, and that would be called a man. Now, you don't have to do that. There are ways to play with it. There are ways to play with your own internal masculine and feminine. You can do that. It's just a lot more challenging. It's a lot. And the other thing is, I'm just going to say this, because I have now said everything controversial that I could possibly think to say. And that's we ladies, we're lazy. Like when I was a leslie, I have to tell you, we would just be like, oh God, you do it tonight. No, you do it tonight. We wanted to be, sort of like ravished and taken and stuff. We didn't want to be the ravisher, but we want to be the ravisher for 10% of the time because it looks so hot when we do it. But we don't want to be all night long. I mean, this was my experience. This may not be your experience. Apparently, this is a lot of people's non-experience, so I'm not speaking for everyone. But it's just something to consider that, one thing, if there is one thing that men like to do, it is ravish. And they aren't like, oh no, just you take care of me. They're like, I'll eat this thing all night. And so then and here's the most important thing is you can go through him. And that is, to my mind, there is no screaming turn on like two women going through a man's body and all. I mean, you can, because it's hot, because you're driving him crazy and he just doesn't know what to do, and then you're driving each other crazy through him, and then one will pull away, and it's like, I don't know, am I allowed to say this? But and then it's like wrestling inside of this man's body, all these energies and stuff, and really getting to see your prowess, and like one takes control of the energy of his body, and then another one breaks it, and then you two just decide to do it inside of there, and he's just like, what am I even doing here? And it's just so fun, And I call it. See, I was a stripper, and I call it, stripper sisterhood. And that's because when you're a stripper and a guy says, can I have two girls? You were like, yes, because otherwise you're working hard, and your arms are tired from you just pooped, but you get that other girl in there and she brings her turn on, and then everything is just levitates, and then you're all in flight together and you're playing off of each other. That's my feeling. But I can tell you, I've had a few really profoundly memorable makeouts that was just me and another woman. I mean, I had one. Yeah, it was somebody who even kind of, their personality kind of annoys me, but I spent years with them because of that makeout. So I can tell you, it is possible.
Greg says, how do you know the right amount of arousal practice in your day as opposed to physical exercise, work, social time, etc.?
What's that? I don't know. I mean, well, it depends what you want to organize your life around. I organize my life around arousal because I want to organize my life around joy. And then those things are that usually, if you do the math, I try to get everyone to do this math. Why do you do that? It's going to end up being, I do, like, like when people are like, oh, I work so hard. Why do you work so hard? So I can go on vacation. Okay, great. So what do you do on vacation? I relax. Okay, what do you what do you do when you're relaxing? Oh, I stay in bed and make out with my partner. Okay, well, just start it making out with your partner. Like, just start there. And then bring, this is the thing that you can do. This is the magic. Because then if arousal is your organizing principle, you can bring arousal to everything. But if you're trying to work your way to arousal, first of all, you're pushing arousal away, because arousal is like, I don't want anything to do with that. And it could only happen in blips. So make it your priority. This is my, from your question, you may not like my answer. So I would make it my priority. Then how do you know? This is how you know. You take that point right before you're going to go into climax. Everyone have a picture of that point in their mind right before, and then you keep yourself there in your practice, and then you go out into the world and you try to not dip. You try to stay in that state, and then if you start to get in that state, you sneak into the bathroom and you reactivate, and you just keep doing what you need to do throughout the day to reactivate that state. First of all, just until you can sustain it. So you can sustain it for 24 hours, and then you're learning to sustain it throughout your life. And then you're looking to stabilize it. So at first it's just like, oh, the lights didn't go out for 24 hours. Okay, that's amazing. Then you're looking to stabilize it so that it is a strong don't know, state, a strong or a signal or whatever it is. So, and it doesn't fluctuate, right? Then what you're looking to do is increase the vividness of it. Now you want it very bright and stable, so that what ultimately ends up happening, this is the coolest thing, this becomes your spaceship, or this becomes your rocket ship. Your consciousness goes inside of this rather than this going inside of your consciousness. And so you just get to rest inside of a stable state of arousal, no matter what's happening in the world.
Do you want to do another? Okay. Corey says, how can a man be used as an instrument of arousal and a conduit contribute and support the unleashing of the feminine and her power coming out into the world and not just aimed at him?
This is what I'm going to tell you, Corey. This is what you do. You ask questions like that on a Zoom. And then you see if the ladies find you on the comments. I can tell you, you start with that. You start with that, and blessings from the Eros Sutras and all beings. I will announce that this human being with this intention is available, and a human being who starts at that level is, rare. So I personally am just going to wish you the greatest luck in finding women who have the courage to live in the having and not the wanting. So you will be intimidating to women who practice the craving and the chasing and the coyness and their being absent, because a man who is interested in a woman's true liberation is saying, I see you. I'm willing to see you. I'm willing to see you beyond my own personal grasping and trying to get from you. If a man is trying to get from you, he can't see you. That's just the basic law. But women are so, if you imagine, so imagine that you found out that there was you were being filmed all the time, and you realized, oh my God, you'd become so self-conscious, wouldn't you? And you would be like, did they see when I did that? Did they see when I did that? And that there would be an anxiety before there would be a relaxation. And the relaxation would be that somebody is attending to you, is noticing you, is seeing you with the dimension of love, through the dimension of love. And then you would relax, because that ancient craving that we have to be seen and witnessed would come. And so you're going to just have to understand, you'll scare a lot of women who want to keep their games under wraps, who want to remain concealed. I have some friends. It's I think people are pretty clear that I'm here to see you if I'm here. And there are people who they just are not interested in that for a very long period of time, and then suddenly they are. So stay with it. That's the other thing I'm saying is tenacity in man is a profound, impersonal tenacity is a profound gift that can be offered to a woman. Shiva is a mountain, and it's just this mountain that she can play on. And so that experience that you are not obligated, that's the other experience that women have. We feel so obligated to pretend all the time. So this impersonal, but by impersonal, I mean, he doesn't take everything you do personally. So this impersonal attention that you can rest inside of, you'll go through some convulsions as you open and the resting inside of, but this impersonal attention is really the greatest gift. So then how do I do it? That's how you do everything your power, and you'll have to do arousal practice to empty yourself of any illusion of self. And that's really the only way. Yeah, that's the I mean, or you could do 100,000 prostrations. It's up to you.
We'll go to Lindsay online with a question.
Hi, Nicole. Earlier you had started talking a little bit about how to relate to the things you magnetize. And I was curious if you could talk a little bit more about that. And maybe I've magnetized a very similar person my entire life. It blew up in my face a bunch. And then I think I tried to correct that by just like cutting it off and getting mad at people who pulled at my, my sweater, who were of that type. And uh I'm realizing that I lost a part of myself when I tried to just cut it off. That wasn't
100%.
the way through. So what is the way through?
My guess is this person that you're attracting is an almost person.
Mm.
Is that right? I don't know.
Yeah.
So you're not going to do anything with him or the hymns who arrive. You are going to. So I'll give you our prescription. There are other prescriptions for this, but this is the erotic one. What I would do is I would increase my arousal to remove the membrane that I'm trying to think of which word to use for you specifically. It would, because it's like the membrane of the words would be having to earn it, sort of self-protective quality of acclimating to scarcity to avoid disappointment. There's this, it's a whole membrane that exists in women. And so I would dissolve that. If you dissolve that membrane, then what can happen? And so I would be in an arousal practice, and I would just focus on where something feels like it's going out of control, and you contract. Just focus on those habits and relax there. And then, and then what'll happen is you'll wash up on the shore of having. When you wash up on the shore of having, everything that you desire will shift into what fills it, because it'll feel like this is whatever. It'll feel like a craving vagina. Is what it'll feel like. That just it's so fat. It's like a velvet glove. It's like the walls are inverted, so very little is needed for it to be having. And so then what will happen is that's what you'll attract. You'll attract people who want to offer wholly.
Thank you.
Janet says, I had this experience where anger came up during sex. In the middle of it, I felt angry at my partner for doing something that was a bit painful. I told him to lighten up, but after that, all these angry voices crowded my mind. I wondered about the anger, if it is Clatia or how to relate to it.
Well, it's the aggression impulse with material over it. But there's a pure aggression impulse and there's a pure sexual impulse. And then they both get stuff over them. And then they tell stories. As the impulse, we'll say the impulse is heat, and it will tell the story of whatever was placed over it. Men are stupid, whatever it is. And then all of a sudden the aggression will go into that idea, and you'll look at him just saying, you're stupid. That's how these things work. And or it's like with the sexual impulse ones, it's like, you are the person who could save me. You are my future. All of these will be the overlay. And by the way, most people never make it to the impulse itself. They live in these zones. So, and to have true sex, to have liberation sex, you need both of these impulses. But what needs to happen is, just like in Tumo, this has to be so hot that it pulls the aggression. Aggression would be located up here. It pulls the aggression down, and now this is what's directing the aggression. So what I would do in order to get it hot is I'm trying to feel much arousal, slow and deep. That's what I would do. And then but if you get in those situations, we all get into them. And I talk a lot in sex, you know, and like when that happens, I turn it up rather than down. Usually what is the sex killer is you'll have this thought like, you disgust me. And then you'll try to block it. And when you block it, you contract, and then the sensation decreases. And so then I would just like you know, like turn it up. Like, I mean, I don't know if you need to hear my full sex life, but I would go into the disgust is what I would say. And you know, like he's just this sick pig, sweaty, gross, grunting animal, and you're like, well, that's kind of hot. And then you bring arousal to it, and then that'll free you to go back into the pure action.
This is the last question we have. Victoria says, how can women live contrary to the grabbing and possessing?
I don't know if you can live contrary to it. I think you can only exhaust it, you know, like I think you can exhaust it and keep showing it something better. Just a minute, I want to make sure I'm giving you my accurate answer here. Because by its nature, it's based in scarcity because it's separated from the wholeness. And so it's like a little kid in a shopping mall or grocery store that's lost his parents, you know, and at first it's just scared, and then it comes up with all these compensations in order to not be scared, and it just, you know, holds on to its teddy bear really tight. And so you have to understand, whatever you say to it, it's not going to believe you. If you say there's something better, it's not going to believe you. So you have to, you know, step by step, it's in a spell, it's lost. So step by step, you have to draw it back into a relationship and trust with you. And you have to be the adult in your own mind, in a sense, and ensure that the grasping, because what it's looking is, this is the only thing that can ever satisfy it is you, and it's looking out there. So the more you pull it in, the less it has to grasp out here. That's the first thing. And then the more you show it, you know, this is why so I don't watch movies. I watch maybe 4 movies, 3 movies a year, like for real. And even the movies I watch are like Cabrini about the first nun from Italy in New York. But because everything I watch is, I watch it to inspire me and to remind me that there are other mind states, because you can get in a spell of this really boring samsaric world and be like, this is all there is, man. Ain't nothing but this, you know, just kind of, but then you watch one of these great little indies or something, you know, you're like, oh yeah, just even a freaking ayahuasca documentary, just something, because you can feel the transmission of other realms, and then suddenly, as soon as there's the vast open space of other possibilities, then this that you're grasping to, this identity that's grasping to the imagination of this other identity that doesn't exist, but so just just this big grasping fest can end, because all of a sudden you realize, whoa, wait a minute, I'm not stuck here in this tiny little cubicle of a world. It is endless and vast with unbelievable potential. I'll just tell you, I had I practice these things myself. They aren't in nothing I say is in theory, by the way, nothing. So like yesterday, I had an experience where I play very hard. And what I mean by that is I will get we'll say, a dharmic suggestion from the Eros Sutras in the sky. And the suggestion it will not be a suggestion. I am clear on that at this point in my life. And it'll say, like, you have to say this. And for some reason, it loves to say things that could end relationships. The truths you don't want to tell, I get the instruction, and it is very clear. Or you have to separate for a period of time, or you have to all of these things. It will say to do that. And it'll say it's absolutely vital for your karma, the karma of the person you're interacting with, whatever it is. And so in that moment, I'm a human being. So the voice comes, and the first thing that happens is I feel that little, but I like that person, or but I'm enjoying myself. And then what I have to do, so I told you that, in my climax, I visualize my guru. What I do in those moments is I just insert the energy field of, I traveled with my guru for a period of time, and this beautiful, just pure light state was there. And so I'll just inject that into moments where grasping happens, so that I can remember, oh, wait a minute. There's something really good outside of this merry-go-round. I'm just on the merry-go-round, so I think that's all there is. And it is a great merry-go-round. I love this particular merry-go-round, but I just have to remember there's a whole other world available. And so that's the key. The key is to remember that everything is made up of this vast sufficiency.
We'll switch to reflections, and we'll start with Michelle Jarrett on Zoom. We'll start with Patrish on Zoom.
Hi.
Patrish.
Hi. Thank you so much. And I'll just say that this whole experience and every one of these calls is an example for me of practicing arousal. So I for example, on this one, I've gotten hotter and hotter. I've taken clothes off. Down to for Zoom, what I can do. So.
Okay, you need to know there's a way that my Sicilian family laughs. No one has made me laugh like that in a while. And that was very good. Thank you.
Thank you. And on a practical level, I have sometimes said that I am here to support the evolution of human consciousness. Yeah. And, I kind of like saying that. And it's like, well, how do you do that? Right. So what I got today, I'm so grateful for, for a recipe to follow and to practice and to put into practice. So I'm doing the arousal, maintaining, the steps that you gave. I'm totally into it. I got my little list, and I'll report back. I'll report back from the experiment in the field.
Honored. Thank you.
If you do have a question online, please raise your Zoom hand and I'll call on you. Next, we'll go to
reflection.
Reflection.
We did a lot of work.
We hit a record on questions today, and we'll go to Matias next.
Hey, Nicole.
Matias.
Get off of getting off of getting to get off. Leave this.
Wait, I didn't hear the last one. What did he say?
Okay. Get off of getting off of getting to get off.
Okay.
Leave this to follow the way of the Dharmakaya of the Eros Sutras.
I heard about this guy who he's being I don't know, he's indicted for fraud because he sold his company saying that it was AI, but it was actually just a big group of his friends who were doing the answers for people. That's how I feel with you. Like you'd be my AI, but it's really you're a real person. Thank you.
Natalie says, I'm so glad I found this room. All of it moved me into lucid remembering.
Oh, God.
Thank you. Michelle Jarrett says, I randomly stumbled on your talk yesterday in the most divinely aligned timing for what I am exploring. Thank you for your clarity. It's opening up so much for me and putting words to what I'm experiencing. And finally, we'll go to Avery online.
I think you're on mute.
Oh, I think I muted.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So you answered my questions in the beginning. Amazing. The piece that landed so deeply for me was where you shared around contracting around climax. And I really appreciate what you said around running the energy, pulling it up. Like I could feel that in my body. And I'm excited to practice this because I can feel that it's an edge. The contraction is like, I can feel it now. It's like, I'll fall apart. I don't know what's gonna like I'm just gonna turn into a puddle and something's gonna like come through. What is it? It's like my whole body, I can feel that. Like
something's coming through right now.
I feel it. It's so alive. So I'm really excited. I'm gonna like practice with myself and then also get to bring this to my consort, as well as the request of slowing down and even asking us to like, it's like asking him to play with me in that rather than like, because I do climax so quickly, like, can we slow? And I know he gets so excited about everything, but it's like, can we live in that a little longer? And yeah, thank you so much. I'm so grateful.
Wow, you feel fantastic. Really enjoyed it. Just feel you. Thank you.
I see one more from Hunya.
Your comment, everything is made of this large sufficiency. It's like the ultimate turn on.
That was too. Thank you for your transmission, my lady.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so today is Monday. I'll be back tomorrow. See you at 1 o'clock if you're around. If not, thank you for coming.